Hey there, and welcome into episode 12 of A Level Deeper. One of the topics that's a consistent theme in my life, and therefore has become a staple of the show, is this idea of self-discovery. Today, my guest is Latina Roggero, and I wanted to talk to Latina because earlier this year, she went through an experience that initiated her own self-discovery journey. I'll let her tell you more about that story, but what I will share now is the thing that I love about Latina's story is she's 49 years old and still in this process of reinventing herself and rediscovering things about herself at this stage in her life as she pursues new things.
This time in my life, this year, I was able to sit still and I was able to pay attention to what was really happening with my emotions once I understood. I really, truly have been so in tune with myself that it's a beautiful thing, because how can you help others if you can't help yourself?
In this episode, Latina and I dive deep into death and the impact it has on us and the people we love most, including the positive things that death can bring into our lives. We'll talk about faith, how sometimes faith and our beliefs can be challenged, and how that's actually okay. And lastly, we have a discussion on self-confidence and where Latina formed the belief that she is a winner no matter what other people think. All of that and more is ahead in just a few moments. And before we jump into the episode, I am on a mission to earn your 5-star review. Whether this is your first episode or first episode you've listened to this week, if you are enjoying the show, I just ask you to take a moment and leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on. It helps us grow the podcast, reach more people, and share more meaningful conversation. Thank you, really, thank you very much. Okay, here we go. Here's today's conversation with Latina Roggero. Latina, I've been excited and interested and curious about this self-discovery journey that you have been on. And first of all, I love that word. I love that idea. I'm a believer that we are in like a constant process of self-discovery. I guess I want to first ask you to kind of define for me, or tell me about, what does self-discovery mean for you, and what has that looked like for you?
So for me, I have looked at this as like a spiritual journey, personal development journey, really working on myself and becoming aware, awake on things that I never even paid attention to. So now that I'm in tune, I'm aligned, and it feels amazing right now. So
Tell us a little bit more about how this self-discovery, this you said you're awake, this sort of awakening process. Walk us back and tell us the story of how this began in the first place.
well, it literally just started this year. And my mother was diagnosed last year in October. We found out she had stage 4 lung cancer. And I was actually traveling. I had just competed into my first pageant. I was in a pageant at that time and flew back home. And I knew before I left that something was wrong with my mom. And I just didn't know what it was. But I just immediately, I got on a plane and just started crying and just, asking God, like, I don't know what it is, but I know something wasn't right. So when I got back, my mom said, Tina, I take me to ER. Took her to ER, and that's when we found out that she had lung cancer, and she had it in her brain and in her lungs and in her kidneys. So they already had spread it in 3 places. And so after that, it was just like, me not really knowing what to do for her, but I knew I needed to be there for her. My whole adult years of my life, I really didn't feel really, really close to my mom. I've always kind of just been like doing my own thing. I had my kids young, and I ended up, not being as close to my mom like I would have liked to be. And so I knew that she needed me. And so I stuck by her side every step of the way. She did not want to get, chemo, which I didn't force her, didn't make her. I said, whatever her choice is, I'm going to stick by her side. Well, less than 3 months later, she passed away. which was January 7th. And I was very hurt by that. Considering that my mom was only 64 years old. She was young, healthy. I mean, never drank, never smoked, never did any of those things in her life. Very healthy person and very, living a holistic life. So for me, I had to, come to realization that when she passed away, I realized I realized what was going on with my mom that I didn't know before. I know mental illness kind of runs in my family, and I know my mom would do things that was very questionable, that I knew that she was, kind of had some mental illness going on. 6 years ago, I'm just going to backtrack. 6 years ago, my dad had a stroke. And so my mom and my dad, they've been together, since I was 2 years old. Actually, my dad is my stepdad, but I always call him my father because he raised me since I was 2. Well, with him having his stroke, my mom didn't take it well. And so she kind of was doing things where he needed more attention than what she was giving him. She was working, she's trying to take care of her husband, she's doing all these things. I have an adult sister as well who needed help as well. And so I decided to get guardianship. I have guardianship over my father and my adult sister because my mother mentally just couldn't handle doing the things that she needed to do for her family. So with that being said, 6 years ago, after him having a stroke, my mom was, going through her things, and I decided to move my mom and my grandmother in together so that they could be there to support one another. It was interesting. I've been taking care of 4 grown adults since the last few years, so 6 years, 7 years now. And so when my mom did transition in January, I realized some things that she was going through that I didn't know beforehand. So I lost my sister. I have another sister, had another sister. She passed away from breast cancer 10 years ago. Well, when she passed away, my mom, I never saw my mom grieve. She didn't want to believe that my sister was sick. And so it was just like this belief thing. She just could not deal with what was going on in her life and what was happening. And so a big part of me was, okay, I gotta help. I gotta do what needs to be done. And, even before my sister passed away, I was taking her to her, appointments, doctor's appointments, and trying to, help with her situation. And when she died, I had to, I did her whole funeral service. I did everything because my mother, she wasn't there. Not saying she wasn't there, but mentally she wasn't there to do what she needed to do. So I realized when she passed away, my mother suffered in silence, especially when my sister died. She suffered 10 years of not talking to anyone, not dealing with her emotions. It killed her. It made her sick, and, it killed her. For a healthy woman having lung cancer who's never smoked a day in her life, never drank a day in her life, to getting lung cancer, I knew what that stemmed from. It stemmed from her not releasing her emotions and all of that being bottled up inside and not letting go. So my journey this year has been a time from it really happened after my mom transitioned. And I thought I was going to die. I didn't know what exactly was going on with me. But when I realized, and when I met Kimberly, she was, kind of walking me through all these emotions that I was going through, that my emotions was trying to, come out. And I did so much crying. I said, all this crying I'm doing, I'm thinking, do I have enough tears to keep crying? I'm just crying. I've never cried so much in my life. Losing my sister, I cried, but I went back to work. I kept going. I kept doing what I needed to do. I got 5 nieces and 1 nephew. I'm trying to be there for them. And I got my own two daughters and my grandkids at the time. And it's just so many things that I'm trying to take care of everybody. So I never, this time in my life, this year, I was able to sit still and I was able to pay attention to what was really happening with my emotions once I understood.
You mentioned, I want to jump in really quick because you mentioned, I thought I was going to die. And I guess I'm just curious what you meant by that.
I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack. My emotions was so strong. My chest, my throat, it was so heavy. They were trying to come out and I just I didn't know. And then all the crying that I was doing. And let me say this. One thing I realized 3 months after my mom passed away, there were some things that I wanted to tell my mom before she transitioned. I didn't get a chance to. She was suffering enough, right? I really wanted to tell her how I felt, the way I felt about how I was treated as an adult from my mom. And I really wanted to just let her know how I really felt. But obviously God said, you know what? Leave it alone. She's suffering enough and let it be. So what I realized, something told me one night, it was 11:30 at night. Something told me, write a letter. I got up, I went into my Zen room, because I do have a Zen room, and I started writing. I wrote a letter to my mom. It was a 2-page letter. When I say I was bawling and crying my eyes out and just writing, I knew exactly what I needed to say to her. And it was a good letter. It was a positive letter. I told her how grateful and thankful that I was that she had me. She had me at 15 years old. So here she's a young mom raising me and my sister, because we were only 2 years apart at the time. And she did do a phenomenal job. Even though my adult years, we weren't as close as I would have liked have, what I would have liked to have been. I can say that things happen for a reason. And she has made me the person I am today because of her. And so I also, in the letter, I told my mom that I forgave her and I forgive myself, because I was angry. It was so many different things that I was going through, of the hurt and the pain. Not even when she was alive, I just felt like my mom didn't love me. I felt like, she's doing everything for, everyone else except for me. But because I am an independent person, I didn't rely on my parents. I worked 3 jobs. I did what needed to be done. She knew, she was proud of me, but she knew I was okay. But, if I didn't have that conversation with her. And that's where I've learned that communication is so important, because if I was able to give that opportunity to let my mom know years ago how I felt, we would have probably had a closer relationship.
What stopped you as you look back to maybe when you first noticed that in your life, or you first started feeling that? And you talked about, if you could have had that conversation earlier, what do you felt like stopped you from having that conversation?
Just not realizing that I needed to have that conversation until now. She's physically she's gone. And when she was here, I could have had that conversation, but I don't look back anymore. I just keep going forward, because now I'm awake and I'm aligned and I'm tapped into my emotions and how I feel and how I need to go about things in my life moving forward. And with her transitioning has helped me to be even that much more a better person, with the self-discovery and just being where I am now. I know she's in a better place. She's no longer suffering. She's still here in spirit. And so I know that. And so I'm happy to know that. And I've been healing, in these last few months. I am a different person than what I was last year.
Tell me more about that. How so? What are like some of the noticeable ways in which you do feel like you've changed, or you feel like you're different since you've been on this journey?
Yes, I practice yoga quite often. So I do yoga at least 3 to 4 times a day. Not a day, but a week. Meditation. I've been really, really meditating twice a day. I do it in the morning, I do it at night. I pray. I make sure that, doing my prayer and my meditation, I make sure that I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be able to breathe. Without breathing, there's no life. So, you know, just those little things that have really changed me for the good, and seeing the fact that we're all vibrational beings, right? I'm learning about, the low and the high vibrations, and I'm learning about we're all made of energy, and if I can continue this path, this journey that I'm on, which I am going to continue because I love the life that I'm living right now. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And I know I'm evolving to my highest potential. And so whatever that's going to look like, I'm open. I'm ready for whatever opportunity is out there for me. It is a beautiful journey. And I want to share what I've experienced with others. Some people will listen, some people won't, some people believe, some people don't. But I know what it's done for me. And I know that it's been a beautiful thing, just being mindful of what's happening, something that I didn't realize before, and that I'm in tune with it now. I'm very aligned.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been on a journey myself, I would say maybe in the last year of specifically exploring more of how our physical body connects to our emotional selves, our spiritual selves, how it's all aligned. And I say that because I've typically just been someone, I don't know, I would say I haven't had like a great relationship with my physical body, actually. I've always considered myself, I'm very reflective. I'm definitely like, I'm an emotional guy. And it's just been interesting as I've started to explore just the idea of and start to question, well, maybe some of the things that I think and that I feel actually do show up in my body. I've just kind of, there's certain things that we sort of write off. And I've always just written off that, like, well, I have tons of stress in my shoulders and I carry, I get headaches and I carry a lot in my neck. And it's been such an interesting experience to start to not just kind of think about, well, that's just a physical issue, and to start thinking about, well, how could that relate to some of the emotional things that I'm feeling or dealing with, or things that I need to say and speak. And it's been really interesting in seeing, as I start to go down some of those paths a little bit, I actually do notice a difference. And as I tap into the physical body, so it sounds like you're sort of experiencing the same sort of thing where as you're letting your emotions out. I want to go back to this when you were really, you were crying and you're grieving your mother. And I don't know if you know this, but unfortunately I lost my dad when he was 50 years old, and he didn't have, it was similar. He didn't have any signs of physical health, or he died of a heart attack. He was a healthy man. Anyway, so I understand that grieving process. And I want to go back to, as you're starting to let all of this emotion out, was that the first time in your life where that was the case for you?
Oh, yeah, that was. I mean, I would cry here and there, but this has been different. This has been completely different. And, me feeling those emotions, not knowing at that time what it was, I never felt that before. So I feel like it was really bottled up inside of me. There's been trauma. My kid's father was murdered when my kids was 2 and 4 years old. When that happened, I was young. I think I was 22, 23 years old. And, I just knew, I cried, but I knew, okay, I'm a single mom now. I got to do what I have to do as a mom. And so I guess just kept going. So, you know, I noticed that when you're going through trauma and going through deaths and stuff like that, this has happened in front of you, each time I keep going. This time with my mom, which you only get one mother, I was, God just said, sit still and pay attention to what's going on. And I did.
Yeah, was there when you lost the father of your children, do you think, I mean, was there almost like a switch that was flipped in you that day that just kind of like turned off the sort of emotional side of things and was just like, all right, I've got work to do, I've got a job to do, and I don't have time to think and feel. And it's like that
Exactly.
switch was flipped, and then it was that way for however many years until January came around.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what really pretty much happened. Because when my sister passed away 10 years ago, it was similar. First of all, I'm that one where I'm taking care of my nieces and nephew, and I got my daughters, and then I had my grandkids, and so I don't have time to deal with my emotions. I don't have time to, but I really have been taking time out now for me. I really truly have been so in tune with myself that it's a beautiful thing, because how can you help others if you can't help yourself?
Hmm.
you know so I realized that I have to take care of me in order for me to take care of others.
I started this podcast for a very specific reason. I crave meaningful conversations and wanted to create an outlet to have more of them in my life. By recording discussions I was already having with friends and new conversations with new people, I guess I just wanted to bring deeper, more thoughtful conversations to a larger audience because I think we all have an opportunity to grow from them. I got to tell you, it makes me uncomfortable to do so, but I'm asking for your help. I'm imagining a show funded by the people who want to support deeper conversations. So, for the cost of 2 coffees per month, you can help keep this show going, and as a thank you, get access to some exclusive behind the scenes content that isn't available anywhere else. In the episode description is a link to our Patreon where you can pledge your support and automatically get access to all the bonuses. So, after the show, I'd love if you'd head there and check it out, and thank you in advance for your support. Okay, back to the episode. Absolutely, and I just feel like it's this interesting thing that we do as humans, or that our physical selves, our emotional selves do. At that time in your life when that switch kind of flipped off and you went into, I'm going to call it almost like survival mode of, I know what I have to do. I've got to raise my children. I'm imagining that's what's going through your mind. And I just find it interesting how at that time in your life, it served a purpose. It helped you continue on. It helped you fulfill your role as a mother. And I'm sure for maybe a period of time, it seemed like that was sort of a good thing. And then there reaches a time where it becomes, it's like, but what have we been neglecting, or what have we been steering away from? And it's just kind of interesting how like our bodies sort of naturally react and try to protect us. And I think at sometimes that can be helpful. And then there becomes a point where maybe it's not so helpful.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. One of the things that I realized, I actually, I've always wanted to do hypnotherapy. And so I recently did that, actually a day after my birthday, which was on the 13th of October. And she, she's a beautiful person. Her name is Brooke. She's at the space. And so I ended up meeting her because I go to her classes and didn't realize that she was a hypnotherapist. So I was so excited to be able to finally go through something like that. And it was actually interesting because we're all made of, we're energy, right? And like you mentioned, how when you're stressed, you just kind of like, you're stressed, but you still got that pain in your body or in your neck that just won't come out because you're just so used to, kind of dealing with things. One of the things that I wanted to talk to her about was my anxiety and the stress that I go through in my life. And I want to get rid of it. I want that to be done and over, because that's the old me. The new me is, I'm living for the moment. every day. I'm not going to stress. I'm not going to do any of that because for what? It doesn't do anything healthy for you. If anything, it just causes pain and illnesses. So when we were going through the process, it was interesting that I could feel like the energy in my body. I could feel it just releasing itself. It was amazing. I've never even gone through something like that before, but because now I'm in tune with myself, I can feel what's going on internally. And so I can say that, I'm doing great. I'm doing well. I'm just, like I said, I'm happy, and I want to continue this journey. I know it's a more powerful journey than ever, and I definitely want to experience at the highest capacity.
Some of these different tools, like hypnotherapy, have what was prior to this year and prior to this experience that you've been on, or this journey that you've been on. What was some of your, I don't know, relationship or thoughts about things like that? Because I asked because, frankly, like sometimes even in some of my own journey, I have looked at some things like hypnotherapy. As an example, I've never experienced it before. My wife Eileen actually experienced it with Brooke as well within the last couple of weeks, and she said that she had a really profound experience. I'm becoming a lot more open to things like that in my life. And I would also admit that there's previous versions of me that were like, that sounds dumb. Frankly, like that sounds made up. I don't believe that. But I'm becoming more open to it. And as the more that I explore different things, and it's just like, well, why can't I just be open to it and to try it and to see? And so I'm curious what your experience or what your kind of thought process was about some of these tools that you're talking about before you started this journey.
Right. Well, meditation, I never really knew what meditation was. So I kind of thought, ooh, I thought it was kind of like, I didn't know what it was, but I didn't think that it was something that was good. I kind of looked at it as a negative because I didn't know. What you don't know is what you don't know, right?
What sort of like assumptions did you make about meditation?
I kind of thought that, people who meditate, is kind of like dealing with, you know, the devil and things of that nature, just nothing positive, and didn't realize that it's really about sitting still and ooh, tongue twister, quiet your mind, right? And being able to listen to your body. When you're breathing and you're taking in those deep breaths and you're blowing out, that's really pretty much all it is, and calming your nerves. The hypno, I kind of thought the same thing, similar with the meditation. I was like, I don't know if that's just bad spirits, I didn't know, And then a couple years ago, I was like, I need to find a hypnotherapist. And
What made you say that? What made you go from, I'm not sure about this thing to like, I need to go seek it out?
well, because I am an open person. So for me, if there's something different in life that most people shy away from, I kind of like going towards it just because I'm curious. I want to know. When I finally got it out of my mind that it wasn't what I thought, I kind of did some research on it. I was like, yeah, I would like to see if I could find someone that could do, hypnotherapy on me. And this year was a great year for that. I've been experiencing so many new things. I've done Reiki. That was another thing that I didn't know much about, but you want to make sure you have people. One thing I realized that, there's good spirits and bad spirits in the world, good energy, bad energy. So you still have to make sure that you're careful at who you're allowing to be in your space, because a lot of the negative energy, they want to take the good energy. And so you still have to be mindful. And so what I've been doing is just listening to my body and being guided. I'm always praying and asking God to guide me in the right way of what I'm doing. and everything seems to have panned out perfectly. Like it's meant for me to do this. It's divine.
I'm curious about your relationship with your faith and what role that's played in some of the loss in your life and in some of this journey that you've been on. Just tell me a little bit more about that.
So I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. Both my parents, they, when I was younger, they started studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. And so then, of course, me being a child at that time, I'm being raised as a Jehovah's Witness as well. And as you know, I don't know if you know much about Jehovah's Witnesses, but, celebrating holidays we don't do. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
actually, I admittedly don't know a ton about Jehovah's Witness, so
okay.
I guess tell me more.
Okay. So basically, a lot of people kind of think that we're in a cult, which I don't find it to be in a cult. I think that religions itself, people overdo things a lot of times. And I think that if you're not balanced with what you know, then it can become a problem. We know that we have a creator, a heavenly father, right? And in the Bible, Psalms 83:18, his name is Jehovah God. People have different names for him, but I call him Jehovah. And it's a very structured religion. So for me, the structured part helped me in my life as being a single mom. And, I'm a very structured individual, which is a good thing, right? I think that sometimes, I know just watching my mom, she was structured, but she also, I felt like she could have been a little bit balanced with her relationship with her daughters. My mom was more so into her religion than being with her, being into her kids. So that's why we really didn't, as an adult, I wasn't really close with my mom because of that piece. I did have my kids young, and we don't believe in fornication before marriage, so that was something that we make mistakes in our lives. And one thing I know, God is a loving God. So, he doesn't penalize you for things, he works. I know what, we all know what we need to do in our lives. It's a matter of just doing it, asking for forgiveness and moving forward. But with that being said, the relationship with my mom and I could say, the last few years since I had to take on getting guardianship over my father and my sister, we had a better relationship than I ever had with her previously. We talked more, which before we didn't. I could go a year or two and I wouldn't even hear from my mom. I think with that being said, I would say that, sometimes not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but all religions, if people aren't balanced within their religion, it can consume them. It can just really consume them to the point where they're so focused on the religion that they forget about the important people in their family and their lives. That's my thought process on that. So
Well, and so it sounds like was that did that experience with your mom, and it sounds like feeling like maybe she placed her religion before the important people in her life. Did that change your relationship with your religion or with your faith?
so in a way it did. I know who God is. I still pray to him. I have a relationship with him individually. I don't need to have a religion to, you know, have a relationship with God. And that's one of the things that I realized. I'm more closer to God now than I ever have been. So religion you know, to me is really man-made. A lot of times just people overdo things, people oversay things. They want to, abuse what they know. And so I have a better relationship with God now than I ever have. And I love the relationship that I have. I know he's there for me. He protects me. He's real. He's my creator. And I give him all the honor, glory, and praise because that's what we're supposed to do. He created us. He created life for us to be able to enjoy. He created so many different things for us. And that's one of the things that I'm like, whatever he has to offer, whatever opportunity there is in life, I want to take it and take all of it. Whatever he's offering to me, I'm going to take all of it and not think twice about it. I'm going in. So that's my that's how I feel, and like I said, I definitely have a more better relationship with him than I ever have.
I think it's cool just hearing you talk about some of your different experiences and this self-discovery journey. And I guess it just reminds me of, and I tend to be a believer in that we can, number one, is it's good to be open to things. Number two, it's okay to question things. And number three, it's okay to always change our minds on things. And I'm kind of hearing that from you as well. And I just think it's cool that, I don't know, I think sometimes we can get sort of closed off on the idea of self-discovery being in later parts of our life, and that we can discover new things about ourselves all the time, every single day, for the rest of our lives. I know that's a journey that I've been on through some of my own therapy and some of the tools as you're talking about, as far as like just learning more about myself. I just think that this idea of being on a self-discovery journey is a very important and worthy journey, and there's no good time to start it or stop it. It's just kind of an ongoing thing. So as I hear you saying all of this, I'm just kind of reflecting on that.
Yeah, no, it's good. I honestly, I had a birthday last month, and throughout this journey, I was telling all my friends, I said, I feel like a brand new person. I feel like I'm renewed, like literally. I'm doing things that I never have done before, never thought I would do. And it's so awesome. It's so awesome. I love it. I love it. So yeah, but I really do feel that I'm being renewed at this point in my life. I just turned 49 and it's pretty powerful.
It is very, yeah, it's an amazing thing. So, you're not the first person who has shared that, and I've experienced this in my life as well, that loss has been sort of a catalyst for some of this change and some of this reflection and some of the self-discovery. I guess I just find myself curious of like, do you think, without going through some of this loss in your life, do you think that you would have been open to this journey or this experience without that major change or pain or grief?
I I would say at some point, maybe in life, yes, but I would think that it would have been too late, right? Because a lot of times we go through things, and if I would have kept on going through the life that I was going through, again, stress is a silent killer. What stress does, it breaks your body down and then it kills you. So if I continue on with this life of stress, 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 go, 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 do, and not, I mean, I would end up like my mom, like my sister at a young age. My sister was 37 with 6 kids. She's not here, right? So we're looking at a 37-year-old, we're looking at a 64-year-old, my mom and my sister. And then, I said, I'm not going out like that. I have to do better in life. So without them passing away, I don't think I would probably be doing the same thing that I was doing before. So it's a blessing. Things happen for a reason. Like I said, they're not suffering anymore. So they're actually doing in a better life than we are physically, you know. But I'm living for them. I'm living for my mom and for my sister. They really, I've faced a lot of my fears. I'm actually fearless at what I do in life. I don't really let fear stop me from doing what I want to do. But what I realized for both of them, They they were very fearful. They didn't want to accept things that was going on. I I accept stuff. I talk about it. I got two therapists. I got a grieving therapist. I have a personal therapist. I got a hypnotherapist. I mean, I'm looking to help myself, right? So I have no problem admitting that. But with my mom and my sister, I know for them, they they didn't want to accept it. They didn't want to deal with what was going on. And I don't want to live my life like that. They died early. They didn't get a chance to really live life. So guess what? I'm living life for both of them. I'm doing things right now. I mean, doing things that I've never thought I would do, and I'm having fun with it. Life is all about having fun.
Tell me more about some of the things that you are doing that you never thought that you would do.
Well, last year, I decided I wanted to get back into modeling. I started getting into modeling when I had my daughters, but it was like a slow process, just more so doing print work here and there. Then I said, you know what? I'm done raising my kids. So now it's time for me to do something I want to do. So I wanted to do something fun. So I got into modeling, been doing like runway shows and all of that. And last year I was in London and I was there to receive an award from a company called 100 Successful Women in Business. And so I received the award, but I also met the CEO of a pageant. And there was we met and they had a fashion show that evening. And I said, hey, if you're looking for an extra body, let me know. She said, you're in. So I was able to do a runway fashion show in London for a Turkish designer. Who does that? I mean, you know, it wasn't even planned. And so after that, she told me, she's like, look, I have a pageant that I'm a part of. I'm the owner. I would love for you to be in this pageant. And I said, okay, I'm in. I've never done a pageant before, didn't know what pageants were. And so I was able to compete in a pageant last year for my first time. Had an amazing time. It didn't matter about winning because I know I'm a winner, so I don't need anyone to tell me that I'm a winner. I already know that. But it was just the experience and the connections that I made. And I did it again this past year. Actually, last month, I competed again. And I did so much better my second time than I did the first time because I didn't know what I was doing. I kind of just went with the flow, was kind of learning as I go. And I was so proud of myself for doing this pageant again. And it taught me so many different things on just being a queen. I'm able to kind of share that with my queen sisters, and I got my granddaughters and my nieces, and they're all proud of me as well for doing something that, I mean, it's scary when you're doing something like that, that it's like you don't know. And then, like I said, for me, I'm a winner. I don't need anyone to tell me that I'm a winner. So it's not about that. Yes, it's nice to receive the accolades, but I already know who I am. So me knowing that, it's all about doing it for the fun, but also building those connections. I've made some amazing connections out of what I've done. So that's one of the things that I've done that never thought that I would even be involved in. So
Well, I just think it's so cool that, you pursued that again, and it sounds like, that was a decision of just it's something that you wanted to do. It was something for you. And it's amazing for people that are listening and can't see us. It's just amazing seeing your body language, and you have a huge smile on your face, and you're sitting up tall and straight, and you seem confident, you seem proud, and I just think that's such a cool thing as you're talking about this whole experience. I'm really curious about you. It's evident that you have this self-confidence or self-peace with who you are, and that you've said, I know that I'm a winner. I don't need to be told that. I'm curious about, where do you feel like that came from for you?
this self-discovery that I've been discovering just this year alone has been very powerful. when I experienced the pageant last year, I was already in my mindset like, hey, this is new for me. I'm doing it for the fun. I'm gonna learn something new. That was it, right? Um, this year I knew for a fact, if I took the title, great. If not, that's okay. Like I said, the goal for me to compete again was to see the progress and the growth. And now I can take that progress and growth and I can share that with other young girls that are looking to maybe want to, model or be in a pageant. I can be that example for them. You know, I know a lot of people who are really in that type of industry. I mean, I don't know if you know how it goes, but sometimes women can be very catty and, they want this, want this. I'm not, I don't have to, I'm not competing with anyone, technically. Like I said, I know who I am. And who I am, I'm okay with who I am. I am at peace. I'm at harmony. That's what I want to continue. But what I've learned from being in the pageant was that I can take that and show others, and I could be that example. I could be that role model, and that's what I'm looking to do. I'm writing a book. I'm a budding author, so my book is about my life as a single mom. Not only raising my kids on my own, it was a struggle, it was challenging, but then I also had to deal with my daughter who saw her father get murdered at a teenage years of her life. That was no joke. And that's what my book is going to tell about the struggles that I went through and what I had to go through with her and her emotions. I didn't even know what she was going through. I didn't know back then with the emotions because I was always work, 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 work. And I had to go to her and apologize and say, I'm sorry. I know now. I'm awake now. I had no idea. I knew what she was going through was hard, but I didn't sit still enough to pay attention to what she had gone through. And all I kept doing was I knew I had to save my daughter because at 12, like everything just broke loose at 12 years old. I mean, I didn't know who she was. I had to go through the point of putting my daughter in juvenile because she was being irate to teachers and authority. She wasn't listening to anyone. She wasn't listening to me. It was a crazy time. It was really years of craziness that I had to deal with until finally I found a program in Battle Creek where I took her to a military boot camp for young adults. And it was free because at the time I wasn't making a lot of money. It saved my daughter because two things was going to happen to my daughter, and I already knew. Either she was going to go to jail or she was going to be 6 feet under. And I had to make a decision. It was very hard. But when I put her in that military boot camp and she was gone for about 6 months, she did well. She actually graduated a year early. And I'm proud to say that, she's the mother of my 3 grandchildren. She's awesome. I don't have to worry about being stuck with grandkids and trying to, because of her issues, So I'm glad that she's a great mom. I spent a lot of great quality time with my grandkids, but I am glad that, she's well, she's still got things that she's working on, but, spiritually, she's definitely, she's happy and proud of me being tapped in. She's like, Ma, it's about time. So, um, yeah, so.
Yeah, these the things that we experience early in our lives, and I can only imagine how going through an experience like that when you're that young, how that stays with you and impacts you and shows up in ways in their lives that they're probably not even aware of. That's been a lot of my sort of learning and unraveling is I lost my dad when I was 17, and even though I was older and I could understand and I could kind of cope with it a little bit at the time. I mean, here I am 12 years later, and I'm still processing things and learning new things about how that has impacted me and affected me. And similar to you, that's led me to make a lot of decisions in my life that are drastically different as a result of that. And so I can just only imagine your kids going through that at such a young age. I mean, it's got to have such a profound effect on them. And it sounds like I'm happy to hear that it sounds like they've had some opportunities to maybe process some of that in different ways and not have that be something that's holding them back in their lives.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy about that too, because even with my youngest daughter, she's 2 years younger than my older daughter. Yes, they both, one is 28, the other one is 30. One thing I can say, I'm very proud of both of them. I'm very proud of them. One thing, as me being a single mom, I was very dedicated at staying focused and being consistent at being there for them. I might have worked 2, 3 jobs, but let me tell you, I would volunteer at their schools. Those teachers knew who I was. The principal knew who I was. I was very, very engaged. So me being engaged and knowing what I needed to do for my kids is why they are the way they are now, which I'm very happy about that, because, kids don't ask to be born. And we as parents, we have to do everything we need to do for them in our power. There's no book about how to be a good parent, but I did everything I possibly could for both my kids. So I can say that I am a proud mom. I have one who lives in Florida. My youngest one, she's doing very well, very successful in her life. And then I have my oldest one that's here with my grandkids. So it's all good. I'm very proud of both of them. So that's why I'm writing a book about my life and my story, because I want to inspire, motivate, and empower others.
Well, and I think by doing what you're doing, by sharing some of your story, by writing a book, I mean, I think you will do that. I just, in hearing you share the story of your life, I think there's so much that you should be proud of. And again, I think it's just amazing that you went through this experience of raising your children and putting all of your time and attention there. And now I think it's incredible that you're shifting some of that focus back onto yourself. And you're allowing yourself to move through some of the things that maybe you kind of missed or weren't able to process. And now you're exploring the things that you want to do in your life. And I just think that's a great, you should be proud. You should be proud. Very.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't even look at it like that until you just said it. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm doing. So, and I deserve that. Absolutely.
As we wrap up our conversation, if people wanted to find out more about you, if they wanted to keep in touch with you, as the book is coming along, what are some ways that people might be able to find you or get in touch?
Well, they can get in contact with me through, I can give out my phone number. I'm fine with that, 734-674-1175, or my email is latinaroggero@gmail.com. So that's LATINAROGGERO@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, Latina, thank you for engaging in the conversation with me today. Thank you for sharing your story. And
thank you.
Keep going. I think you're doing some incredible work, both internally and externally. So keep going.
Thank you so much, Chad. And thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Folks, thank you again for tuning in to this week's conversation. What did it bring up for you? What did you enjoy about it? Or is there a part of this conversation that you want to share with a friend? If so, I encourage you to do so. And if it sparked something that you wanted to engage with me in conversation about, you can head to my website, www.chadmmiles.com, and use the contact form to get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. But until then, I will see you next Tuesday.